What's up, Make Pop Music? It's Austin Hull from Austin Hull Audio and Visual and Make Pop Music, and we get a lot of questions either through the YouTube comments or through Instagram DMs or questions on our Facebook group that are basically just asking production questions, business questions, questions about who I am, what Make Pop Music is, etc., etc. We get a lot of them, so I figured it would be a good time to just kind of open up a Q&A. So last night on the Instagram and on our Facebook group, we just opened it up for people to submit questions, and we got a ton of entries. So this video is just going to be me basically going over those and kind of answering as many as I possibly can in like 15 to 20 minutes. If we don't get to answer yours, I'm sorry, let us know and we'll try to answer it next time, or we'll try to address that specifically one-on-one. Also, if you have any questions while you're watching this video that you would like to ask, leave them in the comments below and we'll do our best to kind of get back to you and answer those in the actual comments. But without further ado, let's actually just hop into the first question. Okay, so the first question is going to be, how do you know a track is release ready sound-wise? So we kind of all get stuck in that, you know, no track is ever perfect, no track is ever finished. What I do is I try to put a timeline and a deadline on things because you have to submit by deadlines. So when I'm starting a track, I'll say like, you know, today I'm gonna work on the rough skeleton. Tomorrow I'm gonna go in and do some, you know, more general production. The next day I'll do some ear candy. After that, I like to wrap it up. I don't like to drag projects out. I don't like to take them month after month after month. So just don't get overwhelmed with like the nitty gritty nitpicky stuff. You know, don't be a perfectionist is basically what I'm saying. We'd like to know the musical production behind the song of which you explain the lyrics. So I'm assuming he's talking about the song that we just did on Tuesday, which was Trouble. Yeah, I can absolutely dive into that and do a whole production walkthrough. We can do a whole production tutorial on that if you want. If you guys want it, let us know in the comments. This is a good one. Any advices about working on singles with artists from big labels? So I actually really can't answer this one because I don't work with a bunch of big labels. I actually focus on independent artists. I'm probably not the authority to go to on that. I'd like to know if you're still listening to metal and hardcore music, and if so, do you see yourself going back to it in the future? So for those of you that don't know, I started production and kind of my music career in the metal scene and the hardcore scene. I don't listen to it too much anymore. I'll just kind of go back to it for some nostalgia here and there. And I still have a couple clients and artists that I work with that are in that genre, but I don't think that I will ever kind of make that my niche, or I'll make that my market. I really enjoy doing pop music. Pop is a bit broader and I can kind of hop into multiple genres a little bit easier. Metal is just so far away from all of these other, you know, hip hop, electronic, R&B. It's easy to make pop go to hip hop or pop to R&B, but you can't really do that in metal. So I think that I'm gonna stay in pop, but I still enjoy and appreciate metal just the same. When is my next song coming out? I release some music here and there just kind of as I want to. I don't really have anything scheduled to release right now. It's always hard for me to find what sound that I would want to go for as an artist, because a lot of the time I'll work on like dark hip hop stuff, and then other times I'll do something like the song that we broke the lyrics down for, Trouble, or I'll do something like big and cinematic. So I don't really know what my brand would be as an artist. I write so much music for other people that normally that kind of gets out of my system. So I don't know. If I have another artist release, I'll probably do some videos on the channel where we break the song down. How to start selling your music, like the top 3 first things to do. So I don't know if you're talking about selling it as an artist or like selling your stuff as a producer. If you're an artist, I would say that your best bet is just to reach out to as many kind of outlets and playlists as possible. Play live, do live performances on your kind of social medias, have live hangouts with your fans online, put up in-studio content, just kind of deliver as many different content formats. That way people can kind of be entertained and always have you in front of their eyes. And then when you actually have music to show them, people want to support and they want to buy that and they want to actually, you know, contribute and listen to the music. If you're talking in terms of producers, I think that the number one thing is just get a solid portfolio. And even if you can't charge, doing a little bit of free work or just super cheap work and developing some artists, I think is a really good format for actually building that portfolio. Then you can make a website, you can kind of brand yourself, and then you can start looking in either in-person markets, so like in your local area, or you can hop to online where you can look at, you know, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook groups. You could start, you know, Twitter. I know producers that work in all of those social medias pretty much exclusively, and that's like their full-time job. So I would say that really for both, it's going to be build that audience with the initial content, and then you're just going to want to kind of develop onto that and show your services or show your product, so your song or your beat that you've made or anything like that. So make the relationships first, pitch them second. How to use EQ on vocals. So we've actually done a couple different vocal mixing videos on this channel. I'll try to link them down below, but we've done like how to mix male pop vocals, how to mix female pop vocals, how to mix lead vocals for like an actual pop group. So I'll put all those. For vocal EQ, I typically like to start with some kind of like analog style EQ, so like a Neve EQ or an SSL EQ or a Pultec EQ, just to add a little bit of flavor. And then I'll go back and I'll kind of scale a lot of that back with something like Pro Q, where I can go in and be a little bit more surgical with it. And I try to go pretty minimal. I don't do a lot of processing on my vocals, as y'all have probably seen. It should sound good from the mic into the preamp into the interface. So just whatever I need to tweak in little sections to actually fit it into the mix. Release the Ariana Grande type beat. That's actually coming out with a group called Lavender. We're basically finishing it up right now, so I will let you guys know as soon as that drops. This one's funny. Tattoos or plugins? I probably spend a dumb amount of money on both. I've got a tattoo appointment next week and I just bought plugins a day ago, so unfortunately, both, sorry. How important is niching down to a specific genre? This is a super good question. I get this a lot because I kind of do like the jack of all trades thing, where I even offered, you know, visual stuff, so like logo design and album arts, and then I work in pretty much every genre and I'll do anything from like production to mixing. So I've never really niched down too hard. That's kind of why I made my market pop and why I made the, you know, make pop music, is because that can be so easily translated to all of these subgenres and submarkets. It's super easy for me to just kind of dip my toe into, if somebody wants something to sound like Drake, I can still classify that as pop and still sell myself pretty evenly on it. I think that you really want to look into like niching down into one specific sound. If A, you're just way overbooked and you really want to focus on one thing and you want that to kind of be your signature sound. So if you've got tons and tons of inquiries coming in, you can pay your bills only doing one task in one genre, go ahead and niche down. I also think if there's just something that you're so much better at than every other genre, really put your focus in on that. But if you can pull multiple genres and you can kind of nail it in multiple styles and multiple tasks, I don't think that there's anything wrong with offering those services, as long as you're confident enough to actually offer those services and think that you're doing a good enough job to where that could be your full-time job if you wanted it in that specific areas. Other than that, I don't think it hurts to kind of break out of niches just a little bit. So I got a couple questions on this. People want to know basically what my workload is and how many hours I work and kind of what my schedule looks like. So it's kind of different every week. It's hard to really gauge because we've got the make pop music stuff going. So we've got videos that we make, we're doing contests, we're working on brand deals. Now we've got, you know, products that we're developing. We've got a new course that we're finishing up right now. We've got sample packs that we're working on. So that takes a lot of time. And then on the other hand, I'm typically working with, you know, 10 to 15 clients at any given point. So I've always got something on my plate. I try not to work too bad, but I find myself kind of getting into these spells where I'll go almost an entire month without taking a single day off. But my wife and I, we both work from home. She handles all of the back end stuff and I handle all of, you know, the actual content and the actual production work. So what we'll typically do is we'll wake up at like 7 o'clock, you know, go to the gym, do our morning routine, all of that kind of stuff. Once I get into the studio between like 9 or 10, if I need to film a video, I'll do that video first and then hand it to her to edit throughout the day. And then I'll normally start with small projects. That way I can knock out as many tasks as once. So like revisions, any kind of like small mixing projects, and then I'll finish off my day with bigger production projects or things that are gonna take a little bit more time. And then I just finish the day off with responding to comments and emails and stuff like that. So if you guys wanna see me actually do like a vlog style video where I basically take you through in the morning when I wake up to when I go to bed at night, kind of everything I do in the day, let me know. We could easily do that. I don't know if that's something that you guys would want to see, but if you want to see kind of a day in the life vlog of me, we can easily make that happen. Other than that, I would say that generally I probably work between like 8 to 12 hours a day. 8 being kind of on this computer, really at work, and then the rest of the hours kind of being like on the couch, you know, just, you know, on social media or, you know, calling meetings, doing stuff like that, hanging out with people in person to try to develop relationships. And I would say that typically I try to do it 5 days a week, but I normally will do it at least 6 days a week, and sometimes I'll even do it 7. So we do work a lot, sometimes a little bit too much. We're trying to scale that back. I will say too, just to add on to that, more importantly than working a lot is working efficiently. So we do work a lot, but we also get a lot of work done within that time, even more so than like the allotted time amount. So we have our workflow pretty efficiently. I'm able to take multiple projects at one time. We're able to knock out the videos twice a week. We're able to kind of keep the group going. Everything is pretty self-sustaining at this point. So work efficiently, work smarter, not harder. And then if you're working smart and you're working hard, there's really nothing but good stuff in store for you. Just don't overwork yourself like I do sometimes. This is a really good one. What are some vital shortcuts in Cubase? So Cubase is actually really cool because you can set up your own shortcuts and hotkeys however you want. The things that I use most are definitely going to be like your, you know, Control S for saving. And then a lot of the time I have like my own batch commands where I'll have one to like open up a new audio track. I have like Control R is going to be to reverse the track. I have like Control T is going to pull up the actual schedule time window, so if I want to time stretch it, I can. And then I really love the side panel that they've added in the new version of Cubase, where you can kind of go through, look at your samples, you can go through and add tracks based on, you know, whatever pictures you've taken of those. So those are my biggest shortcuts. Do I like Jon Bellion? And then also a follow-up, who is my favorite pop artist at the moment? I love Jon Bellion. I think he is such a good artist. I think he's definitely got a really clear vision of what he wants to do. Mad respect, seen him live also, one of the tightest and best live performances I've ever seen. And then who is my favorite pop artist at the moment? I don't know. I tend to not focus on one artist too much, because if I focus on one thing too much, everything I start doing will sound like them. So got a lot of respect for like Billie Eilish. Her new release killed it. Ariana Grande's newest release was really killer. An underground artist that I kind of really fuck with is Manila Grey. I listen to their stuff all the time. Other than that, I just kind of swap it around, listen to playlists, kind of take in as much music as I possibly can, so then I can reference that when I'm actually working on a song. Arrangement tips. This is actually probably going to be a full tutorial, but some arrangement tips that I have is make sure that everything in the song that you're adding has a purpose, whether it's adding rhythm or adding melody or adding harmony or adding texture. When you're inserting something, just pay attention. What is it actually doing for the track? And then secondly, you're probably adding way too much stuff. Just scale it back and make sure every element that you're adding is important. And then also just kind of mix as you go. So like focus on when you put in a kick drum, getting that kick drum to sound almost exactly how you want it in your final mix, instead of leaving that up to like the mixing stage. So like if I'm mixing a song and somebody sends me their kick drum, I should just really need to compress it, set the levels, and get everything kind of generally where it needs to be. Sound should be tackled at the source. So that's my biggest thing for arrangement. How do I start a new song? This is a super good question. I normally just start with a concept, whether it be a lyrical concept or just kind of something that I was playing on piano. All it really takes is one thing. So like the lyric video I broke down, that all started with a scene in How I Met Your Mother. A lot of the other songs that I've kind of showed on here, those all started with just me fucking around on a piano. Sometimes I'll just have like one-liners in my phone. Sometimes I'll be just like at Target and have a melody, so I pop in the background and sing it into my phone. Really any kind of way. I think that things that can help with getting song starts are A, keeping a journal of just ideas that you have lyrically and thematically, and then B, taking voice recordings anytime something pops into your head. That way when you're in the studio, you can actually just hop in and then have some ideas just sitting there waiting for you to develop. How did I get into the music industry and how did I get all the contacts? So I don't have too many contacts. I keep everything super independent, and actually my introduction into the music was literally the Facebook group that I made. Other than that, it was just me working with like friends and local artists and stuff like that. Then once I made the group, now, you know, of course we're international. I think focusing on the community aspect has brought a lot more people in than, you know, necessarily just focusing on me would have been at the start. Because like when I started, especially, pretty much even now, nobody gave a shit about me. I was an absolute nobody. I wasn't doing it full time. I didn't have any credits whatsoever. So I think just having the community kind of grow brought people to me, and then it's just been really organic and easy since then. When did I start producing and what kind of workflow did I have at the time? I started producing when I was 18, just because I was trying to make band demos. And when I started, I think I had a Tascam interface, and then we would basically have a Line 6 guitar amp that we would take an aux cable from that into the mic cable of the computer, and it sounded awful. And then I basically just had Mixcraft and some drum samples that I found on freesound.org, and we would make all of our demos like that for about a year. Then I started investing a little bit. My wife got me, you know, Pod Farm to start doing guitar tones through. I bought some drum samples. This was still in the metal days, so everything was very like sample and preset based. And then I just kind of slowly transitioned and bought things here and there that I wanted, whether it be gear or software or hardware or whatever, and then just kind of slowly built over time to what I've got now in the workflow that I'm currently in. What are the best places to find clients online? If you're a producer or a mixing engineer, I think the best places are going to probably be, in my experience at least, Facebook groups, because you can post so much passive stuff to where you don't have to promote yourself. You can just answer questions people have and kind of build some authority like that. You can post stuff you're working on and just kind of ask for feedback, but also flex your skills a little bit. And you can just make genuine interactions and genuine friendships that will eventually lead into clients. So most of my work comes from the actual Facebook group, or now through the YouTube channel. Other than that, we have a good friend of the channel, Mark Eckert. He gets most of his clients through Instagram. And then I know some producers that make some beats and stuff like that will get them through like YouTube, how to make whatever beat style videos, and Twitter, just, you know, DMing people back and forth. So really it's whatever market you can kind of get your foot in, and wherever you can start building some authority, I would say find that one area and then really tackle it strong. What is the process of making chord progressions and melodies? So this is a really good question. Typically, I'll have a chord progression kind of in my head that I'll hear, and then since I don't know theory too much, I've been kind of studying with Chris, as we've talked about before. So it's getting a little better, but it's normally just a lot of trial and error of me playing around on a keyboard, figuring out what I want want. And then in terms of melody, I talked about this a little bit in the lyric breakdown video of earlier this week. I'll normally just hum a couple things that come to mind and kind of keep areas and scratch areas that I don't like, and then I'll just kind of reform everything from there. What's the best thing about being a music producer? I think the best thing about being a producer is that I get to write music every day. I get to make music that I genuinely want to make, and then it just gets released through that artist or that client's eyes. So I never wanted to be famous. I never wanted to tour or, you know, have my name in lights or anything like that. So it's really, really nice that I still get to make music for a living. I get to be my own boss. I get to write every single day, and I don't have to deal with any of the bullshit that I didn't personally want to have to deal with. A lot of people want that fame, and that's what they want to do in their performance, and I love that. And it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship where they need me, and then I also need them because I don't want to put the music out, and they don't necessarily want to have to come up with everything themselves. So yeah, I love that about production. I get to make it all and then stay a little bit behind the scenes. What are my favorite sample packs on Splice? I don't use Splice too much. I used it a lot like a couple years ago when I actually subscribed to it, and you know, the Cashmere packs are really, really great. Fabian has some really good packs. Fabian Missouri has some really good packs. Other than that, I'll just kind of search for anything that I need specifically and just find something. I want to learn how to record and mix pop music, but I have absolutely nowhere to start. Can you point me in the right direction? Yeah, if you want to get interested in pop music, I say just watch as much stuff on the channel as possible. If you run out of that, maybe head over to our website and check out some of the actual courses we have that are between like 2 and 4 hours that will show you how to do very, very specific things. And then I do offer one-on-one lessons, or if you ever just want to chat, feel free to hit me up either through my email or on a Facebook DM. That's probably the easiest way. But yeah, I say definitely just go through here, spend some time just going through some resources, and then really just developing your own sound and your own workflow. Yo, how can a quiet and introverted person that likes to undersell themselves and over-deliver build a following and hype for releases? This is a super good question because this not only works for artists, but also producers and engineers. I think that everybody needs to start kind of having a little bit more focus on the business side of things. So as corny as it may seem, start reading some self-help books, start reading some business books, start learning how to sell, maybe even get like a part-time job in something like sales where you have to really know how to actually package what you're selling and not necessarily overpromise or rip people off or deliver false expectations, but really just kind of encapsulate the good things about what you've got to offer. That way people get excited naturally. And then really it's just kind of framing whatever you have to say in whatever form of content that your audience is gonna respond best to, right? So I think, yeah, read some books up on selling and then on just general marketing stuff, and that should be a big help. What makes a pop song stand out to me? So there are a couple things. Melody is huge in pop, so melody is kind of where my mind goes first. Other than that, I think that if the song has something really, really cool and unique, it will kind of draw me into it. Like Kendrick Lamar's music is not super melodic, but a lot of his like beat switch ups and his sound effects and stuff like that kind of intrigue me. So I just find myself listening to the same song over and over and over again. So I would say melody needs to really, really be intoxicating, or the song needs to have some kind of other hook that's maybe not a vocal that keeps people really excited. I get this question a lot, and it's basically, how do I get vocals from somebody in another area that I'm producing for, because I'm working in Orlando and all of my clients and artists are all around the world. So basically what I do is we'll get a demo of the song that is a really, really good tracking demo, kind of like 80% done, and then I'll send that to them. We'll grab a quick chat on kind of the vocal arrangement. So, you know, single track the verses, maybe add some extra harmonies and, you know, ad libs and stuff in this section, do this for the chorus, and then they just go into a local studio, and that studio has exactly what I need, exactly what file format I need, and then they can just print the stems out, send them back to me, and if I need anything else, I can hit them up. But typically, since we do everything beforehand and they know what they need before they go in, there's never any issues. I've never had it be a quality problem. I've never had it be complicated for the artist. It's actually super, super simple for them. So I'll normally just send them to somebody. Also, it gets the studios in their area a bit more work as well. So it's a win-win. What info do producers and songwriters need to know legally? I would say have a basic understanding of copyright, and I would say have a basic understanding of how publishing works, like how points and splits and all that kind of stuff works, how mastering splits work, how songwriting splits work. Just because you want a basic understanding, that way nobody's absolutely fucking you over. But if you're having a project where a lot of that's gonna, you know, really, really matter, I say just go ahead and hire a lawyer. It's not really your job. Just read a book like All You Need to Know About Music Business or Music, Money, and Success or something like that, just to develop that basic understanding. And then if it goes beyond that, just hire a lawyer. What's it like having such a bomb-ass wife? I don't know. I'll let you know when I have one. Oh, shit. No, I'm just kidding. My wife is amazing. She's actually the one who edits all these videos and helps run the group, so big shout out to her, because without her we wouldn't be able to be doing the videos twice a week and keeping the group running and all the competitions and shit, so shout out Miranda. What's my favorite personal stylistic thing that I do in most, if not all, of my productions? This is kind of like, I think, what would determine like a signature sound. So one thing that I really like including, and you've probably heard it, is like bass slides. So if I have an 808 in there, I love to do like pitch bends and bass slides and stuff like that. I think it adds such a nice little movement to it, and it's just a bit more exciting than extended 808s. Another thing that I like to do a lot is I use a lot of reverb, but I use it really carefully. So my mixes are generally pretty wet, pretty big, pretty kind of cinematic and ambient, but I think that they still have a bit of punch in the low end. I think that they're still clear in the high end. So I like things that are a bit wide and a bit wet. I don't mix super dry. I don't produce super dry. So I would say that those are probably my two big things stylistically that make me me. Do I have any tips, tricks, or anything like that that will actually help an entire mix? So on my master chain, I actually use FabFilter Saturn, and I'll use it on the magic mastering setting and turn that like 50% wet. And that to me just adds a nice little bit of thickness in the low end, scoops out a little bit of those kind of mids that are kind of honky sometimes, and then adds a nice little brightness on the top end that is super smooth. And then other than that, I also love using Waves Lin MB, which is just a linear phase kind of multi-band compression, and I just put that on the, I think it's just a multi-electro setting, and let it run. Those two things alone that go on my mastering chain are incredible. They're always on my 2-bus, even if I'm hiring a mastering engineer, because to me they just add a little bit of extra sauce on the actual song as a whole. Any tactics to maintain discipline and get a song done? Just so I'm not forcing myself. And then on the opposite, how do I know that enough is enough and when to stop? So if I'm having trouble on a song, typically I'll just stop working on it for a little while, unless it's for like a client with a really specific deadline, in which case, like I talked about a little bit earlier, I like to have all of those kind of inspirations and resources to head into. So I'll just pull up notes in my phone that I've had, or notes in my notebook that I've had, or melodies that I've had. I'll listen to a couple things in the genre that is similar to that, and then a couple things that could not be more different. So like if I'm working on an R&B song, I might go listen to a Disney score, because maybe I'll find something in that that I can incorporate. So just kind of mixing up my styles and flavors, and then having some of those things ready to go on hand are really huge for when I'm kind of stuck in a rut. And then on the other hand, how to know enough is enough. When I think that the song doesn't have anything to add that is really adding to the song, or I think that I'm adding shit just to be, you know, adding it, or because it's cool or unique or whatever, typically I'll just cut it and I'll say deadline's up, it's time to submit, and then that's kind of it. What's my best tip for clarity in a mix? I think nailing the arrangement, having the arrangement to where everything is doing something. Again, like I've said multiple times, the arrangement is going to be key. If the arrangement is bad, the mix is going to be bad. Other than that, it's really like working my way from the top down. So I'll typically get everything in the groups that they need to go to, set those group levels where I want them, and then I'll go in and work on individual tracks. And I always start with levels, and then after levels I go to EQ, and then after EQ I go to compression, and then if I need anything other than that, I'll just add it on a, you know, per track basis. Keep it simple. Make sure the arrangement is fire. And then this is kind of a follow-up. What's the biggest thing that I did to make my track sound professional rather than amateur? What was kind of like my wake-up moment? And I think that it was just making things more simple. Like when I started, I would just add way too much shit, or I would just listen to people online that gave blind advice that would say, you know, on guitar, always turn up this, always turn down this. On vocals, always use this compression ratio. And when I was doing those things without actually thinking for myself or using my ears, everything generally turned out like shit. So I just wanted to simplify everything. So now I just use my ears, go as simple as possible at first, and then I start focusing on the nitty-gritty details. And to me, that made my mixes sound a million times better. How much to charge to produce for a certain artist? It really depends. A, what that artist's budget is. B, what you're actually doing for them. C, kind of what market are you running? Is it entry level? Is it mid-level? Is it, you know, record label level? What do you think your production is worth? What would you, if you were to hire yourself, what would you pay? And then maybe just pitch that kind of rate to them. Why is decent songwriting taking a backseat to sound design? I don't really think it is. I think honestly, we saw in the 90s and early 2000s, pop got really bubblegum, even all the way up to like 2010, to where the songs just had really simple phrases that really made no sense. Right now, I think the big thing is like the vibe of the song. So especially with hip hop dominating the charts, people want something that knocks, people want something that bumps and that is a good time. So I think that right now, mood is coming first. And then I actually think that there's been a rise in lyricism. So we're seeing people like Ed Sheeran or Adele or Billie Eilish or Sam Smith or all of these pop artists that are putting a lot of focus on vocals and on lyricism going to the top. So I think right now pop is actually making an increase in how much lyricism matters. But sound design is generally going to be what people just hear, right? People are gonna hear melody and actual sonic quality before they're gonna hear lyrics. So I think it's just easier to grab people when you have A, a good melody, and then B, the production and sound design is good. And then you want it to be good enough that they actually pay attention to the lyrics. Yeah, that's just my opinion on all of that. Is it worth learning guitar these days? I always think that it's worth learning an instrument. I'm always trying to learn something new. I think that if there's a record that you want to throw guitar on and you know how to play guitar, A, it's going to save you time and money. You don't have to hire somebody in a session. B, you're not stuck to only using VSTs. And then C, it's just nice to always add kind of organic elements. So yeah, I think learn as many instruments as you possibly can. Learning guitar has helped me learn piano because I started with guitar. So I've kind of just built everything off of that. And it's, you know, I used to write songs on guitar when I was a kid. So I think that it's always good to learn as many instruments as possible. I think it's important to not just get so stuck in the actual programming of everything that you forget that there are organic instruments and there are organic kind of methods that you can use to get the sound that you want. So yeah, definitely go learn guitar. I think that's gonna do it. I answered most of them. If I didn't get to answer your question, it was probably either because it just kind of fell in with another one that I already kind of addressed, or we just didn't have time to dive into every single one. So if you still have questions, let us know in the comments below and we will try to answer it. If you did enjoy this, let us know because we can easily do this again. But that's gonna do it for this video. If you liked it, let us know. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you guys next time. Much love, make pop music. Peace out.